Well, y'all, today is June 27th, 2025, and we just got a major decision from the United States Supreme Court. In a 6-3 ruling, the court has allowed part of Donald Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship to go into effect. Let's be clear, this ruling doesn't say that Trump's order is constitutional, but it does take the brakes off in a big way, making it easier for the administration to start enforcing it in states not directly involved in the lawsuits. Let me break it all down for you. So earlier this year, President Trump signed Executive Order 14160. It says that children born in the U.S. will no longer automatically be citizens if neither parent is a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident, meaning babies born to undocumented immigrants, tourists, or international students would be denied the citizenship they've been guaranteed under the 14th Amendment for over 150 years. So lower courts in Maryland, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Washington state responded extremely quickly. Judges blocked the order using nationwide injunctions, saying that the policy was likely unconstitutional and couldn't take effect anywhere while legal challenges played out. But the Trump administration didn't try to convince the courts that the policy was legal. Instead, they argued something more technical, that the federal judges shouldn't be allowed to block executive actions nationwide, only in their own jurisdictions. And today, the Supreme Court agreed with that argument. 6 conservative justices ruled that lower courts went too far. According to the majority, courts can block illegal government action, but only as it applies to their plaintiffs in front of them, not the entire country, which is extremely problematic because it's like, are you going to expect every single state, every single jurisdiction to file these lawsuits to block whatever the Trump administration is trying to do? So let me explain what partially into effect means. So it means that the order is still blocked in areas where lawsuits were filed. However, in other parts of the country where no case has been brought, it could soon begin rolling out, opening the door to a messy patchwork of rules across different states, birth certificates, passports, hospital paperwork. Agencies might not even know what guidance to follow. So the Supreme Court gave lower court judges 30 days to revise their rulings, but the policy could still begin to take hold during that window. Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote a scathing dissent, and I want to read part of it for you guys here word for word. So she said, quote, "Trump's birthright citizenship executive order has been deemed patently unconstitutional by every court that examined it. So instead of trying to argue that the executive order is likely constitutional, the administration asked the court to hold that no matter how illegal a law or policy, courts can never simply tell the executive to stop enforcing it against anyone. The gamesmanship in this request is apparent and the government makes no attempt to hide it. Yet shamefully, this court plays along." End quote. She also wrote, quote, "No right is safe in the new legal regime the court creates. Today, the threat is to birthright citizenship. Tomorrow, a different administration may try to seize firearms from law-abiding citizens or prevent people from certain faiths from gathering to worship." Very well said. This is not just a legal disagreement. That is a warning. So what happens next? Lower courts will scale back their injunctions to only protect specific people involved in the lawsuits, giving Trump administration more room to enforce the executive order elsewhere. But the bigger fight isn't over. The court question whether the federal government can limit birthright citizenship without a constitutional amendment still hasn't been decided. And that fight is almost certainly, no, not almost, it is certainly headed back to the Supreme Court. Here's the bottom line. The ruling didn't rewrite the Constitution, but it does change the legal terrain. It limits how far federal judges can go to stop an administration in its tracks. And when that administration is trying to reshape citizenship, that's a big deal. The impact might not be immediate, but the precedent it sets could stretch far beyond this case. We'll keep following this story because it affects immigrants' families, legal norms, and the future of the 14th Amendment. And the question I just keep asking to myself with all of these cases that keep coming out and rulings that keep coming out from the Supreme Court is, what happened to stare decisis? What happened to that? Because if ultimately, the Constitution can be interpreted in many different ways and laws can be passed or struck down or approved and struck down in various different ways, specifically due to who is sitting on the bench and what they personally think, then what is the point? If that's the case, then there should be term limits on Supreme Court justices or expand the court. Because if we're just going to keep rewriting history and overturning landmark cases, or this has been to the Supreme Court before, they should have just slapped it down. But this is just, like Sonia Sotomayor said, this is a warning. So if pretty much the Constitution can be interpreted various different ways depending on who is there, I don't know what to say to that. A lot of people are going to lose faith in that system.